going to be holding a microphone, but the microphone is only for online viewers, so I'm going to yell and use a mic. So apologize in advance for that. Very happy to have you all here tonight for the West Skiles Wine to Water. Let me back that up. I always mess this up. We changed the name. The West Skiles Water Stewardship Awards. Very happy to have you here at this event. This has been an annual tradition of our club for almost 10 years. What began as a small get-together among club members over wine and hors d'oeuvres has grown into really something that we look forward to hosting every year. Clean water and sanitation are two key areas of focus for Rotary International. We are the Rotary Club of downtown Gainesville, so as a club, we've adopted that focus as something of importance, and we've committed to support the work of the Rotary Foundation in this and other areas, and holding this event provides an opportunity for us to inspire, educate, and celebrate the good work being done in such an important area. Something that will help us in our aims is to remember that we are selling raffle tickets, so if you haven't bought a raffle ticket and you'd like to, there are some discreet sellers who would be happy to help you with that. At the end, yep, right there, at the end of our program, we'll pull the raffle winners. Several years ago, we changed the name. Originally, it was the Wine to Water event, but we wanted to yeah, it was a good hook, right? And we wanted to recognize the contributions of Wes Skiles. A longtime member of our club, Jim Skiles, is Wes's brother. Wes frequently came to our club and presented about the work that he was doing and about his passion for this area where he lived and worked and where we all enjoy some beautiful and rare natural resources. And so we wanted to honor him and those accomplishments, and so changed the name to the West Skiles Water Stewardship Awards. We could not hold this event at our current ticket prices and also recognize our winners without the support of our sponsors. So I want to recognize each of them, so when I call your name, please come forward to receive your award. Jim and our club president, Brenda, will be handing those out. First, we'll start at the, I want to thank Terry Skiles for providing the beautiful photo that Wes took at Wakulla Springs for each of our sponsors. We're also very grateful for the support that we receive each year from Fracture in providing these in such a great format. Really does a great job of accentuating that photograph. At the $500 level, we want to thank Perry Purcell, commercial realtor. Perry. And we also want to thank Shasta Shellhorn with Coldwell Banker, MM Parish Realtors. Yeah, I'll be more patient. At the $1,000 level, Capital City Bank, Kip Harrison representing. That away, right there. Yeah. It's a lot to keep track of. Okay, good. First magnitude. I think with the Denny's here. And next year we'll incorporate some product placement. So. WRUF, WUFT of Corbin McCoy and Caitlin North. Are you here with us? This way. You can smile in the background, it's all right. And now our title sponsors. Now we've been very fortunate at this event to have consistent support from our title sponsors now for several years. First, we'd like to recognize Ginny Springs. We have Taylor Ray here with us, accepting. Thank you. And GRU. And as a title sponsor, we're going to let Rick say a few things about GRU. So remember, it's just for the camera. You still have to be loud.
All right, thank you. Does it show up on the screen or?
No, it's just for remote viewers.
Oh, okay. Well, hey, thank you so much. And Jim told me, oh, you got to do an infomercial along with sponsorships. I said, well, I never miss an opportunity to talk. So one of the things I was just going to say, hey, thanks so much. Really appreciate being here, and really very honored to be part of this event. I was going to show a slide. I guess the folks online will see it, but I just wanted to mention a project that we are working on now. I think a lot of you are familiar with Sweetwater Wetlands that we in Public Works, along with several other partners, did several years ago. GRU's working on a project now where we're going to build what's called a groundwater recharge wetland, and we're going to be building that west of Parker Road. So in that area, we're going to be, what a recharge wetland is where you construct sort of a man-made wetland. We're going to feed that with reclaimed water that's treated to drinking water standards. And the idea is that the natural wetland processes will further cleanse that water so you can get down to really low nutrient levels and then recharge the aquifer. Which is a real benefit in terms of being able to reuse that water beneficially to actually recharge the Florida aquifer and help with supporting spring flows. And as you all know, I mean, one of the concerns in our area is flows of the Santa Fe River and the associated springs. So I thought, well, since I got a chance to be in front of a microphone, I'll sort of mention that project. We expect to get it done in 2024. So around 2024, hopefully have that project going, and Alachua County is going to work with us on providing the public access part of that, so it'll be a public park. So thanks so much.
That's really exciting. I think it's fantastic that we could be here in this exact spot this year, looking out over an area that at one point was kind of the opposite of a park, and now many people enjoy frequently. And to hear about another great project, very grateful for GRU's support and the support of all of our sponsors in making this event happen. So thank you very much for being here, and we hope you'll continue to support us in the future. Thank you, Brenda and Jim. I guess you're going to stay up there for the next part.
I actually was going to, I don't know if I need to talk about this.
That way it's
Channel 20 was also one of our sponsors that we have a plaque for this year. And but there's a breaking news story. There's an event tonight called the West Skiles Water Stewardship Awards that they're out covering, so they couldn't be here. Actually, we do want to recognize them, and hopefully some of y'all saw their promo that they did for us. One other thing, when we talk about Wes's pictures, and Terry can testify to this, I have a National Geographic magazine that was a 125-year anniversary edition. Happens to have one of Wes's pictures in it. But this was 2012. And some statistics about the probability of having a picture in National Geographic. So in 2012, they issued 12 issues. A total of 2 million photos were taken. In the 12 issues, 1,468 pictures were published. So if you can do the fast math, there was 1,331 pictures taken for every one that appeared. So it really narrows it down. The staff at National Geographic has to do a lot of looking at pictures. And to think that Wes's pictures, some of y'all that are getting, were one of those thousands or even millions that made it, just shows you to what degree of a photographer he was. So enjoy your photos. And there will be one raffled off tonight.
Yeah. So just to let you know a little bit about the award process, when this event was first started, the nominations for winners came from the members of the Rotary Club of Downtown Gainesville. After several years, we expanded the pool of nominators to include our past winners. And so it's been great to have additional ideas and nominations from those that we've honored in the past. As I mentioned before, we named our award after Wes to recognize his role as an educator, explorer, and a protector of our aquifer. Our award for this year's winners includes a beautiful picture provided by Margaret Tolbert. Thank you very much for providing that. We are grateful to our keynote speaker, Terry Garcia, for his assistance in presenting these awards. So we'll invite him to come up here and help. Well, actually, we can do them kind of case by case as they come up. But I'm going to announce each of our winners. I'll tell you a little bit about them, and then we'll ask them to come up to receive their award. That way they don't have to stand there awkwardly while I say nice things about them. So, in the nonprofit category, we're very pleased to recognize Conservation Florida. One of the goals of Conservation Florida is to replenish and safeguard Florida's fresh water supply. Its regional priorities include springs and rivers in northeast and central Florida, and lakes and rivers and watersheds in the northern Everglades region. In 2019, Conservation Florida was successful in the acquisition of a 717-acre property known as Wakulla Caves, its permanent protection, and its annexation to one of the largest and deepest freshwater springs in the world, Wakulla Springs State Park. Furthermore, the creation of a buffer of protected lands around Silver Springs headwaters to safeguard the springs and Ocklawaha River protection efforts, among others, illustrate Conservation Florida's achievements and commitment to protect Florida's freshwater systems. Florida Conservation believes in saving land to protect water and is working to conserve landscapes that will provide long-term protection for Florida's springs. Please join me in recognizing Conservation Florida. Their award will be received by Sarah Collins, the Director of Philanthropy. Also attending from Conservation Florida are Cindy Fernandez, Tracy Dean, and Casey Nayfield. Please come forward, Sarah. You guys can get a picture. Yep. Okay. And the camera's that way. You're the eye candy, Terry, so. Congratulations.
Thank you.
In the for-profit category, we're pleased to recognize St. John's Oaks Farm. St. John's Oaks is a family farm in Putnam County owned and operated by Barbara Duran and her late husband, Dan. Inspired by doing what is right in farming, Dan enrolled in Best Management Practices, or BMPs, which are tools that farmers can use to protect water and air quality, reduce soil and fertilizer runoff, and properly manage animal waste on their farms. To reduce the overall use and water pollution, the family installed an automatic irrigation system to increase irrigation efficiency, and it irrigates at night to prevent evaporation. The 4 acres of tree fern on the farm are irrigated using recycled water. Most of the fertilizer used is dry to protect soil, water, and air quality. They monitor the amount of water used and to prevent runoff into nearby waterways. In addition to managing the BMP program, the Duran family hosts farm tools for public school groups from Putnam and surrounding counties. Dan Duran served as past president of the Crescent City Rotary Club and was a Paul Harris Fellow. He also served on the advisory committee for the UF-IFAS in the Tri-County area. In 2019, the Florida Farm Bureau presented Dan and Barbara Duran with a County Alliance for Responsible Environmental Stewardship, or CARES designation, that recognizes farmers and ranchers who demonstrate exemplary efforts to protect Florida's natural resources. Barbara Duran is here with her son Doug and with many additional family members attending, and we're grateful to have you here and invite you forward to receive your award. Flip that.
You're in the dark.
Oh. Into the light. All right. That looked good to me in there. Yeah. In addition to the plaque, we provide a $500 award to each recipient. The Duran family requested that their award be recycled back to Rotary to continue this program in support of water-related projects. Thank you very much for that. In the individual educator category, we're very pleased to recognize Karen Chadwick. It's good to bring your fan club. Karen Chadwick has been one of the strongest voices for water in our region for 3 decades. She's best known for her advocacy for Ocklawaha River restoration, for protecting Silver Springs, and for her leadership in numerous environmental organizations. Karen is a professional boat captain and river guide for her company, North Star Charters. She uses her work as a platform to educate, demonstrate, advocate, and inspire others, including youth, on the importance of restoring and safeguarding Florida waterways. This year's Wine to Water Awards winner in the individual category has made significant efforts to provide tour access to the disadvantaged and physically challenged at the Silver and Ocklawaha rivers. Karen not only works to advocate on water issues, but she also is recognized for her efforts in making complex water issues understandable to diverse audiences. Karen Chadwick is a real hero and a relentless and passionate advocate for water issues. Karen Chadwick.
Turn this way too.
Oh, yeah. You got to recognize the fans. Thank you. Oh, sure. Yeah, if you like. Over here, let me give you the mic
Oh, okay.
for the camera.
I'm almost dashed stuff. Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. When I heard about this, I did a little Google search to see if there was another Karen Chadwick in the area, because we're like, what? I live, out in the boonies where I'm very happy out there. But this is a great community, and nobody can do anything by themselves, especially me. So I work with artists and writers, scientists, musicians, politicians. Commissioner Alford is here. Thank you. We need the politicians to work with us and hear us. I mean, they need clean water too. So since I have your ear, also I'm on the board of Florida Defenders of the Environment. And where's Jenny? Right in the back there. Jenny Carr is Marjorie Carr's granddaughter, and she's the president now. So that's very inspiring. And then over here's Jim Gross. He's our director. And my FDE family. Everybody's in my family. So while I have your ear, if you know me, I'm going to ask you to do something. And I also have a gift. Right now, there's a survey going on by the St. Johns River Water Management District. It ends this Friday, October 22nd at 5 p.m. We need everybody's voice to speak up. If you want to restore the river, now is your chance. It's a really important survey. On the table back there, Jenny can help you. We've got cards. Pick up this card. You can go to this website. The link for the survey is on there. You can sign a postcard. We're focusing on manatees. That's one of the aspects, to let the manatees come through the river freely when the river's restored. Right now, they can't come through after 2 p.m. It's only like 7:30 to 2, Wednesday through Sunday. And the lock tender told me they know the schedule. I beg to differ. I've got stories about that. We'll save that. But sign a card back there. Leave it there. We have a postage patron. I'll make sure they get mailed. Also, there's a couple of these back there. This is about the survey, some information on that. And then your gift is this map. And Commissioner Alford worked on this with me. This is about the historic sites along the Ocklawaha River. A lot of times we talk about the Ocklawaha, particularly, in this neck of the woods. A lot of people say, where is the Ocklawaha? I don't even know. Is it in Florida? Who knows? Here's a map. You can see Silver Springs, Silver River goes to the Ocklawaha and is dammed up by the Rodman Kirkpatrick Dam. And we need to get that thing breached. Now, why do we want to do that? So anyway, these maps are back there if you want to pick up one of these. And thank you, Commissioner Alford, for helping with that so much. She has family history out there too. Why do we want to restore the river? The dam is past its life expectancy. There's holes, there's bolts missing, there's undermining, there's logs, tons and tons and tons of dead trees, logs piled up against the manatee grates that are supposed to be protecting the manatees from getting sucked up against the gate and dying, which they have done. The herbicides, they spray tens of thousands of dollars of herbicides, hundreds and hundreds of acres, just to try to keep it navigable. Restoring the river will allow the fish and the manatees to migrate freely, like I already mentioned. I went out there to Orange Springs, very historic site. Went south 5 minutes, the river's blocked. It's been blocked all year. Every time I'm out there with water lettuce and mostly water lettuce, a few water hyacinths. It blows around, blocks up the ramps, it blocks the river. It's an unreliable recreational resource. If you want to talk about making money, which on my tours, I donate a lot of time, but I also, if you had boats, it costs money to keep them going. During the last drawdown, there was an 81% increase in visitation just in that 4 months when the water was within its banks. And I have friends here, a lot of people have been out there during the drawdowns. Sometimes there's white pelicans. That's a standing joke. Only during the drawdown we see white pelicans out there. There's tons of wildlife. Alligators, everybody's fishing, they're kayaking, there's sightseeing tours. When the water comes, all the little trees sprout, hundreds, probably millions of seedlings. You got ash and, lots of cypress, maple, all kinds of stuff. Everything sprouts in the middle of winter. For 4 months, it's growing, growing, growing. Then they bring the water up, everything drowns again. So they re-kill that forest every 3 to 4 years. It's absurd. It's like, please fill out the survey. It's nuts. I'll stop there, thank you. Fill out the survey, get your stuff back there.
Right behind you.
Thank you.
I'm really shocked that you won the Educator Award.
I'm very quiet.
If you weren't fired up before, you're fired up now. Thank you very much. I mentioned before that one of Rotary's key areas of focus is on clean water and sanitation, so it's also our tradition as a club to make a $500 contribution to the Rotary Foundation at each of these events to support projects that will improve the situation regarding water for people all over the world. Even with all of our challenges, we are extremely blessed to have the resources we have in this country and in this specific part of the country. Many people in the world don't have access to clean drinking water and have other issues, and we're very proud to support the work of Rotary in improving that in areas outside of where we live. At this time, I'm going to have Jim come up and introduce our keynote speaker.
Thank you. That applause was for Joe, not for me, right, Jeff? Well, 50 years ago, Terry Garcia was just this cool kid in high school that was quiet, but you could tell his mind was always thinking. 15 years after that, he was this cool dude out in Los Angeles with a law degree, with a large law firm, but he's still not surfing. What's up with that, Terry? After that, the next 35 years, Terry's done a lot. For 17 years, he served as the Executive Vice President and Chief Science and Exploration Officer for the National Geographic Society. In these roles, he was responsible for the Society's core mission programs and key business units. He told me earlier he wrote the checks. Under his leadership, the Society's science and education programs experienced significant growth and global impact and prominence. He was responsible for the creation of the National Geographic Explorers Program. And for those of y'all that have been attending this event, several years ago we had Jenny Adler as our keynote speaker and one of our award winners who was one of those explorers. He's also developed cross-platform initiatives in genetic science, archaeology, ocean exploration, and wildlife conservation. and a significant increase in its fundraising revenue. He led National Geographic, successful domestic and international retail licensing, 3D large format film, and 33 city National Geographic Live events businesses, as well as its educational foundation. He was responsible for the growth and expansion of the museum and its traveling exhibitions, and launching some of the most successful exhibitions in the last decade, including the 7-year global tour of Tutankhamun's. Say that again? Tutankhamun. That's the one. Hidden Treasures of the National Museum of Afghanistan, one of the longest running traveling exhibitions in history. Now, if that wasn't enough, Terry was also appointed by President Obama to serve on the National Commission of the BP Deepwater Horizon oil spill and offshore drilling that impacted some of us down here in Florida. The commission investigated the root causes of the spill in the Gulf of Mexico and made recommendations on how to prevent and mitigate the impact of any future spills resulting from offshore drilling. I could go on, but he has a great story to tell tonight. He served as the Assistant Deputy Director of NOAA. The man has a great deal of research, and I'm proud to introduce a friend and a great speaker to light y'all's evening up, Terry Garcia.
Okay. So, thanks, Jim. It's a pleasure to be here. What I thought I'd do tonight is talk to you about, guess what, exploration, and specifically who explores, why, and what's left. And before I do that, I want to say a few words about Wes, because he's part of this story. And so I met Wes Skiles, it was probably about 20 years ago now. We were in my office, not out in the field, and we were talking about a series of projects that he was involved in the Yucatan. And we were having some problems with the Mexican government, getting permits, and so we were just strategizing on how we were going to approach that. And after the business part of the meeting, we were just chatting, and he mentioned that that he was from Jacksonville. And I said, "Whoa, I'm from Jacksonville." And I said, "You know, I went to school with this guy, Jimbo Skiles. Do you know him?" And he said, "Yeah, he's my brother." So, small world, we made that connection. Wes was an explorer in the truest sense, which is why I want to talk about exploration tonight. And so, I thought I'd start with this, because in talking to Wes over the course of several years, it turns out that he was a fan, like I am. I'm actually obsessed with this, but of Ernest Shackleton. And you know, Shackleton reputedly put an ad in a London paper when he was recruiting crew for his expedition to Antarctica. He was proposing to walk across Antarctica. It was a 2,900-kilometer trek. It was the last unclaimed prize in polar exploration, and Shackleton wanted to go for it. And he placed this ad. Oops, sorry.
I thought so.
Did you now? All right, there we go. There we go. Yeah. Is that Siri or Alexa? Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. She talks to me a lot, so yeah, it's okay. All right. Okay. So back to the story. So he put this ad in the paper, and it said, men wanted for hazardous journey, small wages, bitter cold, long months of complete darkness, constant danger, safe return doubtful, honor and recognition in case of success. And Wes said, you know, that pretty much sums up my life. And It did, and it sums up the lives of a lot of explorers. And this ad attracted thousands of individuals who wanted to sign up for the expedition, and Shackleton chose 27. So what I want to start with, just because I love the story, but also because of Wes's connection to it, and it fits into the narrative that I'm going to explore tonight. Now, most of you may know the story, but in 1914, as I said, the last unclaimed prize in polar exploration was this cross-continental trek across Antarctica. Everything else had been done. And Shackleton called it the Imperial Trans-Antarctic Expedition. They left just before the outbreak of World War I in August 1914, and they set sail for Antarctica, and they entered the Weddell Sea in December 1914. And in January 1915, the Endurance became trapped in the ice. 11 months later, it sank. Shackleton and his men were forced to abandon ship. They salvaged what they could. They took 3 lifeboats. And their plan was they were going to stay on this ice floe and let it just drift northward. They'd take it to the northernmost point, and then they'd set sail in these lifeboats for the nearest land, which was this tiny speck of land called Elephant Island. Anyway, in April 1916, the ice floe began to break apart, and they were forced to launch their lifeboat. 5 days, 500 kilometers later, half dead, they reached Elephant Island. And they stood on solid land for the first time in 500 days. But they knew they weren't going to be able to stay. They wouldn't be able to survive. So Shackleton decided he was going to do the impossible. He was going to take one of those lifeboats, the kind of jury-rigged it and increased the sides, and he would take 5 men, and he was going to attempt to reach South Georgia Island, where there was a whaling station that was 1,300 kilometers away. And they were going to do it in this, a 22-foot lifeboat. Now, it meant traversing some of the most treacherous water on the planet. And it was a nightmarish trip. So for 17 days, rowing the entire way, navigation conditions were terrible. They were able to take a sextant reading twice, only twice. If they were off by a single degree, they were going to miss South Georgia Island. The 50-foot waves, minus 20, 30-degree weather, hurricane-force winds. Somehow, they made it, except they landed on the wrong side of the island. The whaling station was on the other side, and the only way they were going to get to the whaling station, because they couldn't put it back out in the sea. The condition of the boat wouldn't permit it, prevailing winds wouldn't permit it, the current wouldn't permit it. The only way to do it was an overland trek, and there was a mountain range that separated them from the whaling station. And oh, by the way, it was a mountain range that had never been summited. So their only choice was to do this. It took 4 attempts. It was Shackleton and 2 other men. They only had a rope, a coil of rope, and a carpenter's adze. They got to the top. It was afternoon now, and it was clear they were not going to be able to get off the mountain before nightfall, and they would freeze to death. So they took the rope, coiled it up into a rough, crude toboggan, linked arms, and went sliding down, not knowing if they would hit a boulder or crevasse. There were multiple ways they could die. Somehow, they made it. Got to the bottom. They walked to the whaling station. It took Shackleton 4 months to organize a rescue of the men that he'd left on Elephant Island. By then, he was just convinced they were all dead. But miraculously, as was the case with virtually everything that he did, they were all still alive. Not a single person had perished. So in the end, his expedition was a spectacular failure. He didn't reach the pole. In fact, he never even reached Antarctica. But to this day, explorers and scientists who go out on their expeditions revere him because for nearly 2 years, he led 27 men through hellish conditions and kept them motivated, kept them alive, optimistic. And it was a testament to his leadership and to really the triumph of human spirit that they came through this. And it encouraged others. It inspired others to, go to the poles, to climb the highest mountains. Some people, completely flying off the earth. And so exploration is often defined as curiosity acted upon. But it doesn't explain this. Why would someone do that? And it definitely doesn't explain that. Going in a cave, surrounded by tons of rock, tight squeeze, complete darkness. Doesn't explain that. I've been diving in the Arctic, not in Antarctica where Wes was. It's really cold and it's unpleasant. It doesn't explain this. Why someone would endure this. This is Jim Whittaker, who was a famous mountaineer, the first American to summit Everest. And he told me once that when he was climbing Everest, his eyeballs froze. And he said, you know what? That wasn't the worst part. The worst part was when they began to thaw. The pain was excruciating. And doesn't explain this. Curiosity can't explain why someone would walk 2,000 miles for 2 years through one of the most impenetrable forests on the planet. So obviously explorers are not wired like most people. There's something about their personality. They're determined. They're incredibly focused. Some would say they're obsessed. Some would say crazed. They're optimistic, sometimes to the point of delusion. They're addicted to adventure, and they're all incredibly brave. And there's one well-known anthropologist has described what we do as a species. It said that no other mammal moves around quite like we do, that there's a kind of madness to it. And it's not madness, but maybe it's genetic. And in fact, maybe it's encoded in our genes. There's a variant that scientists call the restless gene, and it's actually in about 20% of us. And it's what motivates those people to take risk, to explore new ideas, to change, to move around. And now, not all of us want to do that. Not all of us want to, ride on a rocket or sail across some endless sea. But we as a collective over the centuries have been willing to cheer them on, have been willing to find them, to fund them, to encourage them. People like Shackleton and like Wes Skiles who were willing to risk everything to advance human knowledge. And here's the best part. Even in this day and age, when so many questions have been answered, when we think that there are no more blank spaces on the maps, there's still things out there to be discovered. There's still mysteries to be solved, things that we don't know. And I often tell people that the 21st century is going to be the greatest age of exploration in the history of humankind. And partly because of technology. The technology is now giving us the key to open doors that we thought were permanently closed to us. All of a sudden, we're able to go through those doors. And what I want to do tonight for the rest of the talk is to take you through very quickly the 4 frontiers, so terrestrial, ocean, inner space, outer space, and give you some examples of what's left to explore. And a lot of these are projects that I've worked on. Some of them were Wes's. And the first one is, sort of the province of lost worlds, things they make movies about. And I'm going to start with this guy, Hernan Cortez. And in 1526, he wrote a series of letters to the King of Spain and said that he had heard reports about this mysterious province that had riches beyond those in Mexico. And there were a series of letters sent to the king. We believe that it was in this area, Mesquitia, up right around here. And over the years, there were other reports of a mysterious city in the jungle where people ate on gold plates, a city made entirely of white stone. It was called La Ciudad Blanca. And yet others referred to a monkey deity and a city of the monkey god. And so over the years, a lot of people searched for this place, including this guy, Theodore Mord. And he was an adventurer, an explorer. He was also a television producer, go figure. And in 1940, Mord was sent to see if he could find, into the jungles of Honduras, to see if he could find this city by a museum. After 4 months, he emerged and said that he had a great find. He claimed that he had found the city of the monkey god. It was this great temple, this large city, pyramid, the stairs going up to a dais, and on the dais sat the monkey god himself. Mord brought all sorts of artifacts back with him, which were legit. He never disclosed where he had found it. He never returned to Honduras, and he later committed suicide and took the secret with him to his grave. Now, there was some question as to whether he actually found it. Did he make it up? There were all sorts of conspiracy theories. Was he a spy? So this area is a rainforest, Mesquitia, and it covers about 32,000 square miles in northeastern Honduras and Nicaragua. And in about 2015, a group approached us at National Geographic claiming they'd found it. And they'd used a technology that archaeologists are very well acquainted with these days and quite fond of, LIDAR, which is a laser technology that uses light waves to bounce off of foliage and the ground. And basically what it does is strips away the foliage. And what's left is a rendering of the surface, and you can see where humans have worked it. And they said, we found 3 sites, and one of them, we believe, is the city of the monkey god. There you go. Okay, let's go check that out. So you have to ground truth this stuff. And we put together a team, and they went in. I went in with them. Didn't tell my wife exactly where we were going, but she had these packages. They started arriving. I was ordering things like snake gaiters and various other things because I do not like snakes. And here's the problem. This is probably one of the most dense forests on the planet, but even worse, it's the most hostile. Everything about it says, if you come in here, I'm going to do everything I can to kill you. Jumping vipers, coral snakes, something called a fer-de-lance, which is a really ill-tempered snake, highly venomous. If it bites you, that's it. If you can't get the anti-venom right then, you're dead. Stinging plants, whitewater, mountains, malaria, dengue fever, Chagas, leishmaniasis. Sounds great, right? So we convinced the Honduran government, the armed forces, to fly us in. They landed on a gravel sandbar where the team had already been, hiked up a mountain, hacking away, and came to the top and found this open area. And in the open area were about 50 to 60 carved objects. Spirit animals, snake, vulture. My favorite, this is a weird jaguar, a combination of man and jaguar. And it turns out that it's actually 3 square kilometers. It was a city, several ball courts, plazas, buildings, including a pyramidal-like structure. Don't know exactly who built it. Were they contemporaries of the Maya? We don't know. Now this is me with one of the archaeologists. We're all looking fresh and eager, and I won't show you the after picture. we were prepared for snakes. That's what I was worried about. Turns out we should have been worried about a tiny little sandfly. Yeah, that carries a parasite called Leishmaniasis. Half the team came down with it, and we had to send them to NIH because the only way to treat it is with it's basically chemotherapy. They pump poison into you. It does a number, but then you're immune. You can go back. So, yeah. So they went back. Anyway, so another project, and this is a relatively current one that I'm involved with. This is, if you recognize her, Nefertiti. She was the wife of the pharaoh Akhenaten, also the stepmother and the mother-in-law of Tutankhamun. And her tomb has never been found. It's somewhere out there, probably in the Valley of the Kings. And an archaeologist came to me and said, I know where it is. And he believes, his name is Nick Reeves, he believes that Nefertiti is behind the burial chamber in Tut's tomb. And if you know the story, King Tut, he died a young man, 19. They didn't have time to build the vast funerary complex that most of the pharaohs had, so they had to very quickly repurpose, Nick believes, an existing tomb, Nefertiti's tomb, and put him at the front of it and then wall it off. And so what Nick did, he used some high-res images that he had acquired and found what appeared to be the sort of plastered over doors on the north and west walls of the burial chamber there. And so we took in a team using basically ground penetrating radar that we repurposed, and spent a night. I had a sleepover with Tut one day, and used the radar to see if we could find a void or a chamber behind one of those walls. We didn't come away with any conclusive evidence. We couldn't determine there was a void or a chamber behind it. Now a third scan has been done, and it does show a void. So, in conversation with those guys, and we'll see if we're allowed to go back and determine if there's something behind the chamber. Now, I mentioned that Wes and I had begun a conversation in the early 2000s, mid-2000s, and Wes joined teams in the Yucatan. In fact, this is a photo that he took of an archaeologist who's examining a Mayan skull that was found deep in a cenote. And the Mayan deposited their dead in these cenotes, as well as individuals who had likely been sacrificed. But the human connection goes beyond the Mayan. In a cenote nearby, the scientists found evidence of a 10,000-year-old bonfire. And even more interesting, in a cave system nearby, among the fossilized remains of mastodon, of giant ground sloths, of saber-toothed cats, they found the remains of a teenage girl who had fallen to her death some 13,000 years ago, the oldest intact human remains in the Americas. Yeah, it would. So this is also one of my favorites, and it's something that's happening right now. So this is called the eighth wonder of the world. It was called the Amber Room, and it was built in the 1700s by the King of Prussia. It was made entirely of amber and gold to solidify an alliance that Prussia had with Russia against their common enemy, Sweden. Frederick, the King of Prussia, gave it to Peter the Great as a gift of friendship. And Peter had it installed in the Summer Palace outside of St. Petersburg. And you can see a replica of it today if you go to St. Petersburg. And it remained there for 300 years until, in 1941, Hitler initiated Operation Barbarossa, the invasion of the Soviet Union. And they basically stole everything that wasn't nailed down, including the Amber Room. The Germans took it back. They packed it into 27 crates, took it to what was then East Prussia, now Poland. It was installed in a castle there, the Königsberg Castle, and was put on display. And in late 1944, it disappeared. And that was the last anyone saw it. So, for about 20 years now, I've been friends with an investigative journalist in Berlin. His name is Burkhard List. And Burkhard has spent a decade, well over a decade, doing research, mostly focused on neo-Nazi movements in Europe. But in the course of his research, he uncovered documents that indicate that the Amber Room perhaps wasn't destroyed, that it was hidden, and that he knows where it is located. Now, the documents also show that Hitler, in fact, did order that treasure, as well as others, to be removed and sort of hidden away for safekeeping. The plan was that they would use these treasures to finance the emergence of a Fourth Reich at the appropriate time, and it was guarded over for decades by his first former SS officers and then sympathizers. So we have commissioned a group at the University of Vienna to conduct a survey, again using ground-penetrating radar, LIDAR, various other technologies, to see if we can locate the abandoned mine, which is where Burkhardt's information indicates that the treasure is located, along with other artwork that disappeared and has never been found, particularly a collection of art that was stolen from a Hungarian family. Anyway, stay tuned on that one, because this fall the team is going in and they're going to see if they can locate with some precision the mine. Now, what's in it, we don't know. Okay, moving to the oceans. So technology is also changing how we explore in this arena. And in fact, I think we're on the threshold of a new age of exploration in the ocean, particularly when it comes to archaeology. So from an archaeological standpoint, the opportunities are staggering. So for ages, we've been doing this. Men and women have been going to sea, and for thousands of years, ships have been sinking. And shipwrecks are time capsules of human history. I have a friend, Bob Ballard, who's the famous ocean explorer. He likes to say there's more human history beneath the surface of the ocean than in all of the museums in the world. So Ballard came to us and said he had an expedition. He wanted to go to the Black Sea. He wanted to test a theory about how the Black Sea was formed, and also he had this idea about shipwrecks in the Black Sea. And so we said, yeah, this is a great story. It's a great project. Let's go. So here's the theory. 15,000 years ago, the Black Sea was a vast freshwater lake. As the glaciers began to recede and the glacial melt flowed down the plains of Europe, sea levels began to rise. And around 7,000 years ago, the Mediterranean finally spilled over into the Bosphorus. Now for 300 days, the water, 200 times the flow of Niagara Falls, poured over and flooded this Black Sea lake and the surrounding areas, like a flood of biblical proportions, maybe. Somebody had a bad day if you were living in that area. We wanted to determine, was there a freshwater lake or a small lake there? Could we find the shoreline? And could we determine if there was human habitation? And in fact, we did. We found the ancient shoreline, found evidence of human habitation. But we found something else even more interesting. So it turns out that at about 300 feet below the surface in the Black Sea, it's anoxic from 300 feet down. No oxygen. Dead, 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 dead. Nothing lives there. Theoretically, any organic material that's sitting down at that depth should be perfectly preserved. The enemy of shipwrecks, you saw, I showed you this a moment ago. This is what most wooden ships look like when you find them. It's just the cargo splayed out there. Well, the enemy of wooden ships are wood borers. They come in, they eat it up. Wood borers can't live in an anoxic environment, so what might we find? So on the last day of the expedition, and it always happens on the last day, Ballard found this. And the archaeologists on the ship, on the expedition ship, said, it's probably several hundred years old. Look at the condition. So they took some core samples, had them carbon dated. Turns out that it's an ancient Roman vessel. It's not a couple of hundred years old. You can still see the as marks where the carpenter was cutting the wood. It looks like it rolled out of the shipyard right then. You can see the leather lashing on the mast. There are literally hundreds, maybe thousands, we don't know how many, of ships out there. Ballard kept promising me, I'm going to find one with the skeletons hunched over the oars. He's never done that, but he made that promise, and I'm holding him to it. Anyway, organic material is preserved, presumably forever. Okay, so this guy, Jim Cameron, the director, producer, came to Geographic one day, and he told me he wanted to dive to the Earth's deepest point, 11 kilometers down the Mariana Trench. Only one other attempt had been made in 1960. Don Walsh and Jacques Piccard went down to the Marianas Trench, and that was it. That was the last time we visited the deepest point on the planet. How many times have we been into space? How many times have we walked on the moon? And yet, we hadn't explored our backyard. And so Jim says, I want to do it, and I'm going to build my own submarine. We're going, okay, this is good. All right. So we agreed to partner with him. And in fact, that's exactly what he did. He built his own sub. He went down 7 miles below the surface. He was the first human to go do a solo dive, and only the second to visit the deepest point on the planet in some 50 years. Now, others have now recently begun doing this. But the point is that we have the technology to begin this exploration, and we have only explored a tiny fraction of the ocean. We don't know what's there. We don't know what we've missed. Now, you don't have to go deep to find uncharted territory. This is one of those wild places near the surface that's untouched, it's unseen by humans, and unoccupied. And just before I left Geographic, we launched an initiative called the Pristine Seas Initiative, and it was designed to, using technology, to identify these places, to then go in and survey, map them, and tell their story, and use that to convince the political leaders of these countries that had jurisdiction over them to protect them, to create marine protected areas. This is in the Southern Line Islands. It's called Millennium Atoll, and it's part of the country of Kiribatis's collection of islands. And it's absolutely magnificent. The water there is so clear, it's like you're looking through air. And I'll give you some examples of it. But the point is that the value of these places, the advantages, both ecological and economic, far outweigh the short-term benefit of exploiting them, and keeping them pristine provides innumerable economic and ecosystem rewards. Now, very quickly, the third frontier, it's not deep in the ocean, it's basically deep within us. It's the inner space. It's the world of microbes and mitochondria. And this fellow, Zoltán Takács, he's a Hungarian herpetologist and a toxinologist. And basically what Zoltan does is he goes out and he hunts venomous snakes and lizards and insects and basically anything that has venom and can do real damage to you. He's highly allergic to venom. He's highly allergic to antivenom. And he survived 6 snake bites somehow. And the question is, why does he do it? Because he will tell you that these venoms, as lethal as they are, have potentially incredible life-saving potential. That researchers have used venom from some of these species to develop dozens of drugs to treat everything from chronic back pain to heart attacks. Now, experts, by the way, that's called a death stalker scorpion. Experts estimate that there are 100,000 venomous species out there, 100,000, containing 20 million toxins. Only about 10,000 of those are known to science, and only 1,000 or so have been studied in depth. This is a saw-scaled viper. So we've only just begun to mine molecular biodiversity in nature. And the opportunity to discover something that could be truly transformative for the human race is there, but it's a race against time because many of these species are on the verge of extinction. And that's what drives that guy. Now also, we're using genetic science to understand our past. And so this is a project, and there are many of them now, that using genetic samples, markers that we have in ourselves, we can trace our deep ancestry back 100,000, 120,000 years. And it's given us the ability to create the first comprehensive map of human migration. How did we as a species populate the planet? Not only can we retrace the paths of the earliest humans, but scientists are now talking about resurrecting creatures that might have accompanied them on their migration. It's a new science of de-extinction. And in fact, they've seriously talked about bringing back the carrier pigeon. You'd ask, why do we want more pigeons? But there has been this discussion. Now, the passenger pigeon, by the way, was once the most populous bird in North America. The last one died in a zoo in Cincinnati, Ohio in 1914, same time Shackleton left on his trip, and her name was Martha. Yeah. And we can go back even further to this. Now, as the ice begins to retreat in the Arctic and the tundra reveals itself, scientists are finding some stunning things. Frozen remains of various mammals and other extinct animals. And a while back, a group of Russian scientists found this and several other frozen mammoth. And while they were excavating it, they pierced one of the ice cavities, and they were met with a sight of dark blood. And their idea, now, I'm not saying this is a good idea, but their idea is that they will basically extract the DNA and implant it into a modern elephant's womb and create a living, breathing, woolly mammoth, the kind that our ancestors hunted 10,000 years ago. Now, the question, of course, is what are the benefits versus the risk of doing all of this? And those are ethical questions that have not been answered and need to be. But it's an interesting idea. Many would argue that we shouldn't do it, that it's problematic. There are others that say that, look, we have an ethical responsibility to bring back these species that we caused to become extinct. finally, this, I'm not going to spend any time on space except to just note that, once it was the province of governments. It no longer is. Private companies, SpaceX, Planet Labs, Blue Origin, have essentially replaced what governments once did. And so that brings me back to what I mentioned earlier. Why explore? Just as exploration can lift an ancient ship off of the ocean floor or bring history back to life, it can also change the world. It can inspire people. It can inspire them to care and to act. And Wes, this is one of his photographs. Wes was a mentor to a number of explorers and a number of photographers that I knew, a number of young divers. And he knew what every other explorer out there knows. And that was that as we speak tonight, that there are men and women out there enduring incredible hardship in some of the most extreme places on the planet in search of the truth and to save what's truly important. And even more important, that there are many more who are ready and eager to go if only they had the means. And, who knows what they might find? Who knows what secret might be unlocked if only they had a chance to go out? And so I just end by saying that what this group does with the Stewardship Awards is what great men and women have done for centuries, and that is to send people like that out, to send them forth, providing the resources to do the things that need to be done to advance our knowledge and protect the planet. And there you go.
Thank you so much, Terry. That was fascinating. And we have a little thank you gift for you, which Jim will present. And that was.
Cindy doesn't probably have enough national But on behalf of the club and those who are attending, thanks so much. I want y'all to know also that Terry has done this at his own expense. If you ever look into having a national... If you tap into National Geographic speakers, we wouldn't be able to afford them yet. But that picture of James Cameron, one day. Don't hold your breath, but one day.
Yeah, exactly.
So, thank you. Thank you.
That was great. So Judy over here has a basket with raffle tickets. So she's going to come up, and we're going to ask Terry to pull 3 of them. Now, before he does, we just want to give another thank you to our sponsors. Very grateful to have all of you here attending. And finally, thank you to our honorees tonight for the work that you're doing and your good example and the way you inspire all of us to do a little bit better. So let's once more give a round of applause to our... So we have 3 prizes. The first one is another fracture, West Giles fracture.
That will be the grand prize. We've got both people who registered online for it and are attending.
She wants to keep it impartial. All right.
I found my tickets.
Oh, yeah.
I bought some too.
You want to put them in there?
Okay, you're drawing. No, these are mine.
Oh, they're your guy. I got you. All right. We're not double dipping.
Hold that.
Okay,
So hold the basket. You do the thing.
I like giving away stuff.
Just remembered. I bought
All right,
them.
so read off the numbers for us. Oh, we dropped the ticket.
Oh, good. That was one that was online.
Yeah.
So I read it. So let me see if I
oh.
can read it for you. Elizabeth Walker.
Elizabeth
She would be
Walker.
online.
Oh, an online viewer.
Awesome.
That's your sister?
That's it.
Awesome.
I'll let you hold.
All right, so that's her sister. Karen's sister.
Incredible.
Awesome.
Okay, number 2.
We'll figure it out. The second winner is for a great gift basket from First Magnitude. Thank you to First Magnitude.
Okay, 2607973.
260-7973.
Somebody has it.
Hey, all right.
Awesome. Oh my God. Where's Edward? Edward gave her my ticket.
Oh, really?
So nice. And he won.
You've got a gift card, a growler, some pint glasses, koozies, all kinds of goodies.
Sweet.
Here we go, Mr. Flanders. Our third winner gets a family pass to Ginny Springs. Thank you to Ginny Springs.
Actually, we got two different ones. The first one will be for family pass of 4. Taylor, is that right?
For the day and for you and the other.
Okay, so we can do the 4.
So we got the big family and the little family. So
we're
we'll start with the big family.
So we're drawing 4, not 3. Okay. 260-7984.
260-7984. All right. Jim's got your.
Hey, my highest and best use.
Last one.
Last one. Okay, 260-8014.
All right,
Oh, there's 2 more. Hey, there's one more, you said? Wait.
We have such great. Megan is in our club that operates the Culver store. Has got donated a couple other prizes too. Who's this going to? So we have 2 sets of where'd Megan go? Chairs and a
Awesome.
pillow and some. Everybody's a winner.
Yeah. So let's.
So there's no more.
Yeah.
Is there another drawing?
Yeah, one more drawing.
One more.
Is that the stuff at the back? All right, awesome. So if you win this one, is that a cheese curd?
I don't know what that is. What is that?
It's a cheese curd.
Okay,
Megan, what is that?
After Terry's presentation on the way home, you can.
All right.
okay, you may want to think twice about claiming this one, but here you go. 260-7987.
All right, Olga.
Oh,
Was there
Back there.
one more? Oh wait, one more. You're getting your
Grief.
yeah.
There's 2 cheese curds. That's so cute.
All right, this is the last one, probably.
Maybe.
Good job.
All right. 260-7983.
7983. 260-7983. Double winner.
Oh, my
You
goodness.
can pass. Okay, he's gonna pass. We're gonna do one more.
Aren't you sweet?
Okay. 260-7985.
That also?
Awesome.
No.
Got a new one.
260-7985.
Wait, is she like, she just has to like leave.
Yeah.
Did anybody-
7985. All right, Jesse.
All right.
Way to go.
She's
Thank you again, everyone. Great to see you.
This is great.
There is some food. If you're still hungry, please pick up a plate on your way out. Thanks again. We'll see you next year. Oh.
Fill out the survey.
What's that? Yeah, it'll be available online. I'm not sure.